4 to the cloud. All right, so for the meeting today, I would like to share this with you. Yesterday, Livia shared with me, again, this is not, let me, just a second. I'm gonna unshare. I thought I fixed this, but it seemed like I didn't. But anyway, I will talk as I fix this over here. So Livia shared with me some news that happened yesterday at the House of Senators in Brazil. And it was, okay, so where are you? Right here. What is my meeting? The Zoom meeting.
When you say Livia, you mean Livia Marotta, the doctor who is sitting there so beautifully.
Yes. Yeah, so, okay, so now I do not know.
Which of you plays the piano? Your electronic organ. Okay, you both point at each other. Okay.
Just Louis.
Yeah. We strummed the piano, you know.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. So, oh, again. And anyway, it's a very, I would like to share with you this. Yesterday, the House of Senators in Brazil, they promoted a tribute to, in honor to the medium of Chico Xavier. And so it was a beautiful ceremony. I was very happy to see that because it means the politicians, they start to care about, you know, people like him with a very nice social type of work.
But it's extraordinary. That's huge.
Yes, it is.
Very impressed.
Yes,
that's wonderful.
Well, that happened because some of the senators, they are spiritists, so they do a very good work.
Well, it must be a majority, because otherwise they wouldn't have agreed to do the tribute.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it was a beautiful.
It was a very. House of Senators works in Brazil, but I'm sure it's not 30% gets the vote. It's going to have to be more than half at least.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was a.
Can I just say something interesting? There was a lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics. Chico Xavier helps so many people, and he never cares if the person was spirit or spiritualist or any religion. He is somebody loved for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think the Senate was not majority spirit. I think they were all religions, but still they love him.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, Josie, because Chico has a lot of his reputation. Nobody can deny. You know, he has a very good reputation, and everyone in Brazil, doesn't matter your belief, they have a very high respect for the work that Chico promoted when he was alive. And but anyway, in that yesterday, a lot of people said so many things about Chico, but then I would like to mention this story that was shared by one of the senators. So this was the senator, he was talking about a day when Chico had a very, how can I say, accidental guest. Anyway, it was 2 a.m., you know, late at night. And as usual, Chico used to work during the day, and late at night, he was doing his mediumship work. And when all of a sudden he saw someone broke in his house, and he was in his kitchen, and then he saw this guy. This guy was surprised looking at him, And he was surprised because he was not expecting somebody, but then this guy was pointing a gun to Chico. So the guy said, you know, I was told you have a lot of donations, so give me the money, whatever money you have. So Chico was a very calm person. And he said, okay, so I do not have a whole lot of money, but yes, that's true. I receive a lot of donations, but I should have some money for you. So he was pointing to the guy where the money was, and the guy went to the place, to the shelves, one of the shelves to get the money. It was not a whole lot of money. It was 170 whatever coin, you know, currency. I think it was cruzeiros. I don't remember. But anyway, it was not a whole lot of money, but that's all that Chico had at that, you know, at that day. And as the guy was speaking, you know, taking the money, so Chico noticed his clothes was very, you know, it was old. And so he said, you know, son, my brother, I received a lot of donation as I told you. So I should have probably 2 or 3 pens. Would you like to try some, you know, and see if one of those can be a good fit for you? And the guy said, yeah, for sure. So he passed on, he gave one of his pants that he had over there. And then he said, you know, I think you need to change your underwear, you know, you need something new. And I happen to have some of donated underwear as well. So would you like to try some? And then the guy got it. And then he said, you know, you look like you are hungry. Are you hungry? Would you like to eat something? I can warm up something. I do have a little food for you over here. I can warm up that for you. So the guy accepted. So the guy was eating, while the guy was eating in Chico Xavier's table. So he engaged in a conversation with that guy and said, do you have kids? And the guy said, yes, I have 2 daughters. And then he said, would you like to take some food for them as well? I can put some beans and rice and something, whatever. I have some vegetables over here. So as the guy was putting together the food that Chico gave to him, so he was leaving the house and he was going to the back door. And then Chico said, wait, what are you doing? And then he said, I'm leaving. And then he said, but why are you not using the front door? Don't use the back door. Use the front door. Here you have the door keys. Don't use the back door. Otherwise, if somebody says, he see, this is already late. At this time, it's 2 a.m. At this time, if someone sees you leaving from the back door, they will think that you are a thief. So, you know, it is Chico's nature. He was, at that point, 2 a.m., he was giving a chance to the guy that, you know, not to behave as someone just breaking in a house to rob, to steal someone else. So he was giving a chance for that person to leave his house with dignity. So I thought it was very, very nice story to share.
I'd like to add something too, Anna, about Chico yesterday. It was about more than 4 hours of homage in the Senate for Chico Xavier. Many people speaking about him. One of them was here in this meeting, Geraldo Lemos Neto, he spoke. Yes. Another person I know myself from Belo Horizonte was a judge, Haroldo, and many people spoke about him, and that was very nice. And I think Giles is right. It's a huge thing. It's a huge thing because for many decades, the evangelical movement became very strong. And because of this, Spiritism was kind of being kind of choked. But now after the pandemic, spiritists got out of the spirit centers and they put their face on the screen on the web, you understand? And I think this kind of revived the notion that what Chico was and so on and so forth. It was wonderful, really. It was.
Yeah.
And if we could speak about just Chico here, we could go on and on till tomorrow. And what the most beautiful things about, I think, cases about Chico is when he uses his mediumship very strongly, right? When, for example, two reporters of a famous magazine trying to deceive him, they went there and they disguised themselves and they pretended to be another person, other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of produced a scandal on in a magazine in Brazil that could be like a Life in the United States, for example, saying that Chico was a fraud because they were disguised and Chico didn't guess who they were. But it just happened that Chico had autographed a book for them. And when they came home after they released the report, they opened the book and the book was dedicated to their real names in full. So it was very, things like this was there all the time. So that's why Brazilian people just couldn't deny him and his mediumship. Okay,
Glenn. Sorry guys. As a matter of fact, yesterday, lots of people in that the House of Senators, they made a comment about the sense of the perfume from these flowers over here, the jasmine. It's a very common flower in Chico's Xavier's state, or the city that he used to live. And so lots of people, they said, it is like we can smell this perfume. It was there. So like a confirmation that he was present at that time. Sorry, Lynn.
Sorry. Two quick questions. How many senators are in the Brazilian House of Senators? And two, thinking about the robbery, food, etc., how active are the organizations, charity organizations, especially religious, in Brazil? Just two quick questions requesting information.
Okay, so Luis and Livia, since you guys are, or Leda, you guys are living, it's been a while since I left my own country. 56, do we have about 56 senators or so?
Maybe, I don't know.
We have right 3 senators per state. How many states?
23.
23.
Okay, yeah. 23.
69. No.
69.
Yes.
So it's a large number of senators. Good. Okay.
Yes.
And what about the charity organizations in Brazil, as far as religious, non-religious? Are they very active relating to the poverty that as
yes.
They are very active.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just to count spiritist centers are thousands of spiritist centers.
Really?
For example, in the city where Chico Xavier lived, there are more than 100 spiritist centers, and it's a small town, right?
Wow. Okay.
I put in the chat a remark that says the charity is clearly variable, both in time and place. So in some areas, there will be good charity, which will run for 10 years. And then something happens, somebody dies, something changes, and then the charity goes down. But then in another place, up it comes. So it's not, I don't think that's a fair question, or rather an easy answer saying, yes, good charity, because which place, which time? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, even the senator that was directing the meeting, he talked a lot about Chico Xavier's and his testimonials with his books, from his books that changed his life according to him. It was very interesting, very emotional meeting, really was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Josie?
Just a comment. One time, I don't know if we can mention that, but Chico Xavier was referred to the Nobel Peace.
Oh, yeah. He was nominated, yes.
He was nominated, and only at that time, they proved 3,000 nonprofit organization was founded by Chico Xavier.
Wow.
It was against his will. He didn't want that at that time. I
Yeah,
remember.
3,000, they say they just give up because there was so many, they just stop it there. 3,000, the number.
Yes.
Hi, Saif. Thank you,
Yes,
gentlemen.
just to say that usually charities, you get them set up by organizations and they're endowed, and those go on for a long time. And then you get people who start a charity and it's just person, they run it. And then when they've run out of steam or they don't have enough people to carry on, then that closes and another one starts somewhere. But you do have these.
The reason I said that is because we've been running a charity here for a decade, and it varies during the decade. I mean, we were giving away food at the lowest possible cost to us, which was $5 for a 40-pound box, which in a supermarket is usually 150. And somebody complained to the authorities that, oh, this charity is charging money for its food, no matter that it was a token that just allowed us to pay gas to go and get the food. So we had to stop serving food, and the switchover happened. So there was a 2-year period of nothing much happening, and we switched over to clothing. And that so far is working. There we are selling the clothing. Oh dear, yes, at $1 a bag or some giveaway price. And so far, nobody has complained to any authority about that. So far,
Not
so
yet.
good.
Yes.
And
Yes, in Brazil, there is a practice in the Spirit centers, which is called, in a free translation, Kilo campaign, right? Because people get together and go around the city or around the borough asking in apartments and houses for donations, right? And all that donation, they will make, for example, a soup or a food for people, needy people, or even distribute those food baskets to those who need it.
Yeah. All right, folks. So that's what I would like to share today. And so, hi, Sid, you raised your hand or?
Oh, I can put it down.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I thought you had a comment. So let's go ahead and continue. So last time we stopped by the question number 657. To those who have devoted themselves to a life of contemplation, doing no evil, and thinking only of God, get any special merit? The answer from the spirits, no, because if they do no wrongdoing, then they do not do good either. Moreover, not doing good in itself is wrong. God wants us to think of him, but God does not want us to think only of himself, since God has given the human being duties to fulfill on earth. Those who spend their entire lives in meditation and contemplation do nothing praiseworthy in God's eyes, because such a life is completely private and useless to humankind. God will ask them to account for the good they have failed to do so. So there is a reference to the question 640, but if we continue, let me move this. What is my, okay, there you go. So the next one is the prayer. Is prayer pleasing to God? Comments on that? Okay, so Giles.
Yes, indeed. Whoever answered that question with saying that you would be brought to account for not having done good is being very vicious and unkind, because very often people who have incarnated on earth, then reincarnate, but this time they want a quiet life, not one which is engaged in civil war or rebellion or difficulties fighting a disease or a family that attacks them, and all of the difficult things that can happen. And they want a life which is without stress. So they live quietly. And the reason I say this is because, well, that's only one example. My brother is one example. He was an astronomer. He refused to get married. He didn't want any stress. He hated social situations, lived very quietly in the same apartment for 40 years until he had to move to an old folks home. And of course, that he didn't like at all. But who does? Who does like to share their life with the humiliation that accompanies that kind of thing? So a life of contemplation, if this person is sitting and cross-legged in a cave in the Himalayas, there's nothing bad about that. And it's totally unfair to say that he will be called to account for the good he failed to do. I disagree with that, and I think that's morally incorrect.
Let me go back to the question, because the question says any special merit, but I see your point. And Len?
Well, this is kind of a loaded question, and it's directed at you, Anna, and also you, Louis. We're talking about the effect of reincarnation, past lives on present lives, karma, etc., the whole. I would like to ask a loaded question, which that is, Anna, if I stand to be corrected, and Louis, you were a Jesuit priest in a former life, and Anna, you were a nun sister in a former life. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What was the effect on your present life, if any, related to this reincarnation of past lives? I know that's kind of a loaded question. We could always leave it to the end, but the effect of reincarnation on this present life, etc. Karma.
Let's see if I could understand, because you're saying that as I told you, maybe I had been a priest.
Correct.
You know, yes. Of course, there were consequences. One of the consequences is that I was born into a Catholic family whose father had almost been a priest too.
Okay.
And yes, and I was related to many people, even Chico Xavier, and people that very related to Rome and Roman habits, right? But on the other hand, I had, maybe because of my mistakes from the past, I had a great resistance to, you know, Catholicism, church and institutions.
Interesting.
And Spiritism was my exit door, right? For me to understand that that was not Christianity, right? That was not Jesus Christ teachings at all. And then when I discovered Spiritism, I could understand that with the explanation that from the afterlife, Jesus Christ's doctrine is perfect. It's just, you know, very interesting, very good. And the kind of mistakes we made with the gospel in the last 2,000 years, we make them with the Spiritism and the spiritualism, even in these days, if we're not careful, because the problem is not Rome, the problem is the human being. So these are the lessons. But of course, yeah, for example, I was involved with spirits that tried to pull me back to that kind of environment of the church. I'll tell you something. Once I went to pay the tuition at my daughter's school, and it was a Catholic school, right? When I went to the treasurer place here for me to make the payment, the guy looked at me. He was a priest. He said, "Come on, you need to work for us here. I see here that you're a teacher. You need to work for this institution. You belong to us." Look, the guy said this to me for the first time he saw me. So I was always, you know, I could feel that I was around, and I had this kind of obligation all my life, this sensation that I need to explain to people that the gospel has nothing to do with the institutions and the mistakes the institutions have been made towards the teachings, right? And
So
to
you
be-
know, it's your reincarnation history, which is driving at that, drove you away from Catholicism and more towards spiritualism.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Although the tendencies and the, you know, the circumstances was somehow surrounding me all the time, right? Not anymore, but until the last, before the last 10 years ago, I think that many circumstances were always attracting me to even Spiritist institutions who had a kind of a Catholic flair. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah,
Okay.
the institution was kind of a Spiritist Catholic institution.
So
So
it's
what
kind of
was,
a hybrid, a hybrid.
that's it, yes. And I think that happens in our lives, indeed. You go on changing slowly, but with the afterlife teachings, I think we can get take a larger step, you know, towards renovation and change, right? Because it's very clarifying. I think, and my personal opinion, I think Wendy Zemet told me that that Victor Zemet was born in Malta, one of the
Correct.
most Catholic places in the world.
Yes.
I said to myself, oh, the story is just like mine, because we feel this kind of, you know, urge of telling people, look, it's not like that. It's not like what's being said all these 1,500 years, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In my case, I didn't have the same type of resistance as Luis had, but I felt like just going to the church was not enough, because at that time I didn't see people going to the church also going towards the ones in need, like working in a, you know, doing social type of things, you know, humanitarian type of work. So to me, I was not finding the answers that I was looking for. It didn't make sense for me just sitting down in the church. Evidently, I was feeling okay, but I felt like I needed to do more. And what happened to me today is I have this sense of urgency, doing way too many things at the same time. I do work with this group. There are 2 other groups that I volunteer to. And in addition to my own work, it's a very demanding type of work. And like Hyacinth, I always had this experience. I experienced this my entire life. For out of no reason,
Okay.
even people
Interesting.
that I do not know, I have people coming to me and telling me their problems.
So Anna,
Sometimes-
basically, like many, you were driven from the church because they didn't supply the answers that you were looking for.
Exactly. Yeah, it was not all, yeah, it was my case. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Josie. Josie, you are on mute. We cannot hear you.
I don't see her.
So in
Ah,
our
there.
nations, we accumulate our experience, and you can call our astral body or in our spirit, we accumulate. You never lose what you're learning in other lives. So even in this life, we are not conscious, we have all this knowledge behind. In our spirit and our spiritual body. And I believe that's why sometimes people are somebody who never speak English and suddenly come here and learn it very fast, because maybe in another life they have some contact with the language. Just an example, just to be easy to understand. But because when I understand you were asking is how the other lives interfere in this life. So if it's not consciously, unconsciously, you have all this archive in your spirit and your body. Just you always can bring that.
Well, many times the soul knows what the conscious mind does not know.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, very well said. Yes.
Right.
It's Hyacinth's turn.
Hyacinth?
Yes, I think that because you withdraw and you have lead a contemplative life and a prayer life, and you're doing that because this is what you feel inside, it's not a special merit. It's judged on every life. And if that's what you've chosen to do, then there's no special thing. There's no special thing for me or for anybody. You are judged according to how you have proceeded and how you treated your fellow beings. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Len, about this hybrid church, I'm staying with the church because that for me, Jesus' teaching cannot be improved upon. But I find that what I have learned from some of my esoteric workshops, that I have understood better what Jesus meant in some of his teachings, because it's wider. And it seems to me that the church is stuck in a time frame, and they will not acknowledge what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that I tell my bishops this, that no, I cannot agree. I've said, the Pope cannot change my mind on this, nor can the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is my sort of top man. But so this is what I mean. I think it is very individual and sincere in what you are doing. And it all comes down to, how are you treating your fellow beings?
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Hyacinth. Gloria?
Yeah, I have to unmute here. Thank you, Hyacinth, for that, because that's the first time that has been languaged in a way that I can relate to. If anything, the church made it very difficult for me to incorporate Jesus into my belief system. Just the way his teachings were presented, I just couldn't relate. And studying Spiritist teachings and our discussions, it has brought me full circle back to Jesus. And I'm very grateful for that.
Precisely.
There's something I'd like to say about the society today. Hyacinth, if you left the church, you wouldn't have your social life anymore, because you don't go to bars and drink like you did in your youth, if you ever did, in fact. And we've seen this before in 1820, where there was no social life at all in America unless you went to a church.
Right.
Now, then you could also drink, and that was the other possibility, and some people did both, of course. So in the end, they came up with prohibition, because a lot of people didn't want to go to church and just remain drinking. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I've got a few suggestions, but they will take some time.
No, but that's not my experience at all.
Well, if you left the church, where would you go on a weekend? What would you do? Who would you talk to?
I would be with other people.
Yes, what other people? Church people?
Not necessarily.
All right, come on, Hyacinth, I'm painting with a broad brush here.
No, I know this, Giles, but this is very serious to me. And
well, it is very serious. It's the way the society is set up, and it's not set up very well. Art, you've got your hand up.
Well, I tell you, I am regarded as a rebel here. My priest said that to me last week. And I said, yes, I am a rebel, because there are things that I don't drink Kool-Aid.
Yes, I like that, Hyacinth. All right. No, don't take any offense at what I'm saying.
No, I don't take offense.
I'm speaking very broadly.
Yes, I don't take offense.
Anyway, it's Art's turn.
Yeah. Giles, come on. You can't tell everybody whose turn it is. Come on.
Okay.
Oh, I am
Thank
reminded.
you, guys.
I am
Go ahead,
reminded. I am reminded from my fundamentalist days of a saying they used to have. He was so heavenly minded that he was of no earthly good.
Good one.
Thank you. Okay, guys, can we go ahead and move on? Okay, so 658 is prayer pleasing to God. Comments? Is prayer pleasing to God? What do we think? Giles, you are always the first one.
Oh, it's difficult to know, to answer that question, because if you're in a concentration camp waiting to get slaughtered with another 10,000 people, your prayers, where do your prayers get you? And the answer is nowhere. It's as though God is turning a blind eye to that activity. If you're starving to death in Ethiopia and you pray, whatever religion you are, God turns a blind eye, apparently. I think the effort put into such positive thinking is not wasted. Nothing is ever wasted. But when the prayer, as it has to be, is save me, give me food, save me, get me out of here, save me, get me out of here. Well, yeah, there's a way to get out of there by dying. So I'm not sure that that prayer is much use, other than the fact that positive thinking is never wasted.
Thank you. Hi, Sid.
Well, of course, I don't agree with Giles at all. But Jesus himself talked about prayer. And he said, when you pray, go into a closet and pray. Don't stand on the streets praying so that everybody sees you're praying, because that's not prayer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so again, for the people in serious trouble, and you pray for help, that's what you have to do. But you do not know what the situation is. And since all of us believe in incarnations, perhaps this is something that we have to go through. But people can test over and over and over that they pray and they get an answer. So you pray in faith and see what happens. But I tell you one thing, God does not sleep. And it is not that he does not care. It's just that whatever the situation is, you have to go through.
Thank you. Hi, Sid. Art, you're the next.
Oh, the OWASP states that to make your prayers a statement of your highest aspirations. I get a feeling from that it's going to be back like Giles was saying. There may not be any miraculous help available to you.
Okay, thank you. Len.
In brief, I think prayer is an individualistic thing as far as self-fulfilling for the heart and soul of that individual. All right. Just in a simplistic way, in my opinion, that's what it's self-fulfilling for the individual, for the heart and soul. And it's always good, no matter, it's always good, positive. It's a good thing. That's it.
Thank you, Len. Leda.
Every time you start a prayer, you open a channel to the higher realms and to the higher spirits, right? So it's a two-sided thing. You say what you need to say, but you also listen. You also pay attention to get what you need. So if you are in desperation, if you are in anger, if you have all that, Jesus said that if you have anything against your fellows, you have to solve it first and then go to prayer. You have to be with an open heart to start your prayers. So if you are in a state of desperation, you have to give it to God and trust that he will do the best. And with that, you are already helping yourself. You are in connection with these higher spirits, and you can change your thoughts and your mind, just trusting God, right?
Thank you, Leda. Yeah, Giles, before you go, let me say something. Whenever, yeah, because you had your turn, let me say something. Let's be democratic here. Whenever I pray for others. I cannot think about praying for myself. I do pray for my sons. I do pray for this group. I do pray for other people, because whatever the test I live in my life, I do trust God that the test that I have now, I am up to. Nothing is going to happen to my life that I'm not up to. And even when I face terrible, terrible pain, like last year we had a death in the family, and it was very, very unfortunate. But I was not praying for myself. I was not praying for my pain. I was praying for the person, a 25-year-old lady that was deceased. And so I pray for them. And by doing so, I feel the energy. I feel the power of praying. I feel like more empowered. And yeah, that's how I face the challenges. I do not, if I'm hungry, I will not ask God for food. I will ask, as I do, God to show me the ways, show me how to overcome that challenge, how to look for a better ways to find my own food. Sometimes we get confused because we are asking God for material things, and whatever is material is for us to help ourselves, to do for ourselves. Whereas we should pray for spiritual things, for spiritual strength. That's my opinion. So go ahead now. I'm done.
Okay, no, I've got no quarrel with any of that. I don't have quarrel with anything these days, actually. Leda was talking of certain circumstances of prayer, as was Hyacinth. So it depends on the circumstances and the kind of prayer. Now, if you are in a concentration camp and you pray for hellfire to rain down on the Gestapo that are torturing and murdering you, well, you certainly will be excused from the naughtiness of doing that, but it's not going to be very successful. So it depends on the type of prayer and the circumstances. And the one you just mentioned, which is praying for others, this, of course, is wonderful. It's the best and only kind of social work that has any value. Well, all right, giving people food has value too, even if they do turn up in Cadillacs. Sorry, Livia, Luis and Livia.
Thank you, Giles. Luis, Livia.
Yeah, very interesting. I think this, we could talk, maybe in the future, near future, I don't know, we can be studying about prayer more in depth,
Yes.
But I remember that Jesus Christ in the Lord's Prayer says something that we need to have a very long learning curve to reach that, which is thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
That will be done.
And we are here to try to understand superior wills, right? For us to, to get ourselves on track of those will. And whenever you do this, your prayer becomes very strong. That's what I've witnessed in my life with people who, put their lives on the track of superior wills. I remember once a person said, Luis Sergio, being Chico Xavier is very easy. He had a spirit guide that, everything, the guy guided him through that. the spirit guide was always there. Okay, but it has been for many reincarnations, and the spirit guide is saying, look, there are some lions there, go there, you'll be killed by them in the name of something superior. And then he went. That's why today he has a spirit guide that can guide him through all difficulties, because nothing comes for free, you know. And this is very, very hard to pray, to become really, in the very Latin sense of the word religious, is to start following superior wills, right? Above ours. And that's not easy. I don't think, if you think it's easy, please teach me that. But that will be done is the point. So I think the quality of the prayer will depend on your intention, depend on what you're searching for. Jesus Christ said, what are you looking for, right? Search and you will find, right? And then when he said, when you talk about the Pharisees, what kind of the fake religious people, he used to say, well, Pharisees, they want to show and to have people clapping their hands towards them. And that's the reward they want.
Exactly.
And if you're looking for this, you're going to have this. If you're praying to have money, maybe if you know, positive mind, you know, secret, right? Remember the secret. I'm going to have a lot of money. Don't ask me what that amount of money will do to your soul, but that's what you want. Life will give you, right? Somehow. But if you start looking for real things that matter to your eternity, of course, this is something more difficult and a better prayer, I think, in this sense, you know.
Yeah.
I gotta add one thing at this point, which is yesterday we had a very good meeting. Yesterday, and it was a webinar, and so it was shut up and listen, which I did, and I will do as soon as I'm finished here. I'm sorry to delay you, Carol and Hyacinth, but they said something very important. When you pray or when you meet your spirit guide, don't ask for anything specific. Ask for, please, can you show me something that is important to me? And I was seriously struck by that as being a very important statement. Please show me something that is important to me. I like Luis. Luis is immediately saying yes to that, because it's so often we ask for things which spirit may or may not deliver, but are they what we should be seeing? And this was very important, and I thought that was a wonderful thing to say, and that's why I'm repeating it. Sorry for interrupting. We should ask for, please show me something that is important to me.
Thank you, Giles. Carol?
I have read in some books that talk about the afterlife, where it's been channeled to an author, that God doesn't want to be worshiped, and God doesn't care whether prayers are said or not. But I think it's a personal thing, of course, personal choice. But I think that a lot of people get a lot of comfort from prayer. And it's like we pray in our healing circle for people to get better, you know, with their health problems and things. They may get better, they may not get better, but I think it gives comfort to the people that are praying for it. And I think it gives comfort to the people that they're praying for. So I pray, you know. So I think it's a very personal thing, and I that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yeah, and it is a personal thing, but also it does have a lot of impact. I will, as we are talking over here, I'm thinking about inviting one of the lecturers or speakers that I know of to talk about prayer and what happens from the physical standpoint whenever we pray, because there are some impacts on the quantum physical, I don't know, you name it. But yeah, there is some impact on the physical world, no doubt. Hyacinth.
Yes, well, Louis talked about this, about you're praying, thy will be done. Well, no less than Jesus in his passion, knowing the crucifixion was coming up, who said, Father, let this cup pass from me, but thy will be done. And if this is his son saying this, I mean, this is it. In the end, but it doesn't mean because you don't get it answered that it wasn't heard. And the other thing that Carol just said, they have done medical research. People, and having the groups, people who know they're being prayed for, people who don't know they're being prayed for. And they find that healing takes place for people who have been prayed for, whether they knew it or not.
You're right, Hyacinth. You're
So
right.
that we cannot say, because you don't get what you ask for, that your prayer wasn't heard.
Yeah, thank you. Luis, Livia?
I have a story from my mother. My mother was a sort of well-known medium here in my town in the spiritist field. And I usually followed her works when she was retired from work, so she started working as a medium more often. And once there was a woman whose son had a problem. He became paraplegic out of nothing. And after searching for doctors, they even went to the United States and a special doctor there. I don't know, that was Cleveland. I don't know exactly where it was. And the guy who was helping him the most was his cousin. And his cousin took him to my mother's care, and she started praying. She started communicating with spirits, and his mother came to her and said, what do I do? What do the spirits say? And look at what the spirit said. So he said, you are very Catholic, aren't you? I'm very Catholic. I don't even know what I'm doing here because I'm so Catholic, she said. And he said, okay, but there are spirits here saying that you are such a good woman and you have a lot of merit. If you keep asking that way for your son to walk again soon, he will walk again soon, but that's not going to be good for him. The woman didn't like that situation. The woman said, come on, what are you talking? I'm a mother, my son can't walk, and you're saying for me not to want him to walk. No, not that, but to leave it to the higher guys, the higher spirits. For them, they know exactly what is the moment for him to recover his health. The woman didn't like the idea, and she said, and she turned, and when she was leaving, said, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna do the opposite. Since I have so much merit, I will ask, right, the double in my prayers. Okay, in 1 week, the guy was healed, started walking, went to celebrate in a weekend house, and killed his cousin and went to prison. So that for me, it was a great lesson of for me to understand, wow, my goodness, my mother really got the contact with the spirit, say, please, maybe that situation of being paraplegic was just some people trying to help him avoid a karmic encounter where he could do something much worse, right? That's really tough, isn't it?
That's exactly it, Louis.
Thank you,
You
Luis.
do not know.
Len.
Yeah, from a clinical medical perspective, there's a long history. If you look at all the clinical studies in many different fields in medicine, science, the materialistic medical science part, they call it the placebo effect. They don't know how to understand it, grapple with it, So it's just called a placebo effect, where they do a lot of clinical studies, a lot of patients, and they have this where they did say patient Y group received this medication. Patient X group did not. They were, but no one knew what they were getting. All right. And the X group, where they received no medication, they still had a percentage in there that responded clinically. Okay, improved. And in medicine, they don't know how to, because it's very materialistic. I mean, when you've grown up all your life, and then in this incarnation, the medical science fields, they don't know how to grasp it, understand it. So it's just called the placebo effect. And that's their out. In other words, that's how they grapple with it.
Thank you, Len. Thank you, Gloria.
So I thought the placebo effect was when you get, instead of getting a pharmaceutical that's supposed to heal, you get a sugar pill.
Exactly.
And you're still healed.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Len.
Can I just say something about it? Well, the specific researchers that Heising are saying about, it's really about researching prayers. And they made some studies about it. And they really saw that the group that was not being prayed to and got better faster than the group that were not being, where the group they need not were praying to. So they didn't think in placebo. I think they really saw that was a group of researching specific prayers. They didn't give any medication, different medications to any group of them. They were sometimes in hospitals, sometimes at home, and they really saw that prayer really
was effective.
It's the power of prayer, sure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Livia. Gloria, sorry.
This is a story about my grandson. He was beautiful, my son's only son. And about a year into the pandemic, well, let me start first. He was very high performing autistic, and I prayed for him all the time because he couldn't relate to other students. He couldn't relate to other adults. He just couldn't function. And he was so bright and such an incredible athlete. And he couldn't stay on any team because he couldn't relate with the other team members. And it was such a struggle for us as a family trying to relate to him and him to us. And I prayed for him all the time for healing of his body and his mind and his spirit. And at the age of 22 during the pandemic, he got involved in drugs and he died of a fentanyl overdose. And the agony that created for the whole family was incredible. And 5 days after he died, he came through a medium, loud and clear, completely healed and well and strong. And the message he was able to give through the medium to my son and to me was an apology, because we'd always taught him to be responsible and he hadn't been responsible. And he wanted us to know that his overdose and his passing was not any of our faults, and that our prayers for his healing, even though our prayers were answered, he ended up not being with us here anymore, but he came through so healed. And I'm so at peace with the fact that our prayers were answered, even though he's not here. He's healed, he's whole, he's complete, he's happy. And when I ask him what he's doing, he gives me these one-word answers, and they're just wonderful. Like he's doing wonderful things, and he's happier than he ever could have been in a life here. And so when I pray, my personal lesson has been that I pray for this healing or something better. And it just so happens that the something better for him was that he couldn't stay here. He had done his 22 years and he had suffered terribly in those 22 years. And it's difficult for us. And yet it was so reassuring to have the messages from him that we got. He's he's doing beautifully now, and I'm so happy for him.
Gloria, that's beautiful. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for sharing. Thank you, Gloria.
I need to remind everybody of this story that that I probably told you before. It's during the morning darshan when there's about 1,000 people outside of Sai Baba's house. He's going around giving out vibhuti and curing people left, right, and center. And there was a particular crippled child, about 14, and a mother of maybe 30. And he walked past, he looked and he walked away, kept going. And in a private meeting afterwards, one of the Westerners, which is why we heard this story, said, "Why did you not help them?" And Baba said, "Well, I knew about their past life. And their past life was a bailiff and a judge who spent 40 years ruining the lives of innocent people to their own benefit, material benefit." So I could see that, and that's why I didn't help them. I knew they reincarnated like that to try and earn atonement. So knowing that, would you have cured them? And that, of course, that's the answer. If you can see people's previous lives and know what effect they're doing, this healing would have simply messed up their attempt at atonement. And therefore, Baba did nothing. So there we go. It all depends on circumstances. When that amazing story of curing this this person who then immediately gets a gun and goes and shoots somebody. Gloria, what a nice story. So that prayer was misplaced, but nothing is ever wasted. And so, of course, the oppressor or the shooter knew afterwards what he had done and what it was worth and so on. Okay, let me get my hand down. Sorry, I just wanted to add that story because Baba made it quite clear that since you don't know what the previous reincarnation was, be careful with your helping. And anyway, it's not wasted.
Hi, Sid.
Yes, precisely. We do not know. And you know, there's so many people who have said, you didn't answer me. He says, but you do not know what I have done. Because there's so many, there's so much. I mean, there's suffering, you know. You don't know, I have come back to suffer, to pay for it. And therefore, I must suffer. So we just don't know what the situation is. We just have to trust. And thank you, Gloria, because this is something, because people find comfort, as you say, and people who are very distressed and despairing, they need comfort.
Yep. Thank you so much. Hi, Seth, can you please read the answer of the question for us, since you were the last?
Prayer is always pleasing to God when it comes from the heart. Intention is everything in God's eyes, and a prayer from the heart is preferable to one read from a book, to one read from a book. No matter how beautiful it may be, if you read more with the lips than with the thought. Prayer is pleasing to God when it is offered with faith, passion, and sincerity. God will ignore the prayer of a vain, proud, or selfish person unless it is offered as an act of sincere repentance and humility.
Comments here? Oh.
The heart is where it is.
Yes, yes, indeed. So the next one, what is the general nature of prayer? So this is going to be the last question of the meeting, since we are very close.
And we move on to another question, because we've explored the quality of prayer, and that it is very clear that the quality of prayer depends on circumstances, as so often one size does not fit all. So
Yep.
Prayer, general character of prayer, does prayer make men better, and so on. Okay.
No, but this is one thing about it's, we have said here some weeks ago that it was no point in worshiping, that they didn't believe in worship and prayer. So, okay, different
Thank you.
opinions. Mm.
Maria, you raised your hand.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry for coming later. I was in another meeting. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 6, we can read, "But you, when you pray, go into your closet, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you publicly. All right.
Yeah.
I think
That's what.
that. Oi?
Go ahead.
I think that entering our home can mean seeking within ourselves the best we have, building a place that brings us enough serenity to disconnect from the hustle of life outside, to lock the door, and seek a state of calm so that we can talk to God with that inner emotional structure in secret. Our mind is chatty. That's right, chatty, tagarela.
Yeah.
Our mind is chatty.
Talking all the time.
Yes, talking all the time. And takes care of the mental space we make available for her. For it or for her? For it. Okay. Talking to God requires psychic and emotional silence. And we don't develop this silence in our lives nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a matter of learning how to meditate, how to concentrate and be focused. Yeah. So, any comment on Luis? No? Would you please read the answer since no comment?
Prayer is an act of worship. Praying to God is a means to think, get closer, and communicate with God. A person who prays may do three things: praise, ask, and offer thanks.
Thank you. I do have a comment on this answer, because it says get closer and communicate with God. I think when we do pray, we get closer to ourselves, to our inner self. I think is the first step. You connect to yourself.
And I completely agree, because such activity is self-discipline, requires self-discipline to not let your mind wander, which therefore helps you in your meditation and in your other thoughts. You have better control of the wild animal that's inside us, thinking different things all the time. Oh, let's go climb a mountain. Oh, let's go get drunk. Or the usual stuff that goes through there. Oh, let me try that stuff. Oh, it's stronger than opium. Wow, give me a hit. Oh dear, it was fentanyl. So all this, I think you're quite right. It helps very much in the terms of self-discipline.
Mhm.
And
By the way, I'm sorry.
yeah, Luis, no, go ahead, Luis.
Okay, I remember something that happened very interesting. I was talking to a woman that she had some problems in her life. She came up to talk to me, and I started concentrating and kind of trying to understand before the conversation, right, what was going to happen. And then I felt a spirit, a very nice spirit by her side, right? And the spirit kind of crossed arm, used to say, looking like this, I mean, I don't know what to do. And then when I started talking to the woman says, when I asked her, do you pray? I said, oh, Sergio, I believe that if God knows everything we think and feel, why should I pray? Right? And the position, the spirit was kind of inspiring me, saying, look, they as higher spirits, they obey the free will of everyone in front of them. If you don't ask, they won't give it to you. You need to raise your hand, make an effort. You need, just like when you need to move the dial of an old radio, you need to make the effort of tuning up with higher energies, and you will have the merit to be heard. And maybe through your intention, you'll have the merit to be answered, I mean, to be attended in your needs. So this was a very interesting, and she said later to me, because I think this is very important for women or women to pray, because they have the sixth sense. If they started, I remember once a woman said to me, Sergio, I cannot stand, I cannot put up with myself. I imagine my husband, right? I cannot put up with myself. I imagine my husband. I cannot look at myself in the mirror. I want to punch myself. So, okay. But I had this kind of inspiration. She was she was a medium, and she didn't know about that. And a person like that is not praying, is not, tuning up with higher purposes, will be really very dark at home, So it's an experience, people. People came, every time I said this, a woman came to me and said, oh, Sergio, that thing saved my life. I started really praying, and I completely changed, right? Now I can understand my husband, I can understand the house much better. I can see things much clearer. And Emmanuel said that, the guide of Chico Xavier, maybe the prayer won't solve the problem, but will shed light all over the place where you are, for you to understand and show and take the better way, the best way to.
Thank you, Luis. Well, guys, 4:17 over here in Houston. Thank you so much for this meeting. I have something to share to you. You probably know, every time that we meet, we are not alone. So whatever we say over here, we help ourselves, but also we help others who gathers with us, and they are not in physical bodies. They are spirits. They come to hear whatever we say and to learn from what we are trying to learn as well. And they are very pleased. Some of them, they are happy to be here, and they say welcome to some of the members of this team. So again, thank you so much for meeting with us today. I do appreciate you all coming over here, getting your time, sharing your time, and helping us to build up from these teachings. So thank you so much, and I see you next Saturday.